The last time we met was in May, and so it's great to actually see everyone again. Thanks for coming. And welcome to anyone who's in the public who's joining us tonight. The first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to get a first and a second to approve the minutes from May 2021. Will somebody give me a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Norm. Would somebody give me a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jack. The minutes are all in favor of approving the minutes. Please say aye.
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 No opposed, so let's approve the minutes. Thank you so much. All right, so tonight we're really going to spend most of the time talking about zero waste. What that means, why we're exploring it, and what kinds of actions we would like to see happen around zero waste in the township. So I'm going to just give a little overview, and what we'll do first is we'll go and say who we are before we do it, and then this way the public will know who we are. Let's start with the people who are joining us virtually. Can you say who you are?
Jeff Million.
Thank you, Jeff.
Steve Lockard.
Steve Walker. Thank you, Stephen.
Peggy Kowalski.
Peggy Kowalski. Hi, Peggy. I'm Bonnie Howard.
Norm James.
Amanda Bryant.
And Kristen Cooper.
Okay. I started talking about and giving an overview of zero waste and what that means. So why are we focusing on zero waste before I even explain what that is? The ANC has spent a lot of time in the past thinking about recycling and our efforts to recycle in the Cleveland Township and the cost of recycling and what we need to educate the public on. We have concerns about contamination and the cost of what that contamination is doing on our recycling, and also on environmental impacts because a lot of recycling actually now, only 10% of things that we recycle actually get recycled because there are no markets for recycling products. And so most of the stuff gets buried or burned even though we recycle it. So there's a lot of concern across the country and across the world actually about recycling. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about this. This led the group to thinking more systematically about trash and waste and the bigger picture. So beginning with this month, we'll be taking a look at zero waste efforts and how we can inform the residents about this idea. So I just want to go over, I know we had a meeting, an informal committee, not a committee meeting, a subgroup meeting prior to this, and we talked about this idea, and I just wanted to go over that. So what does zero waste mean? Because a lot of people get confused about the title because they think that it means that you're not supposed to make any waste at all. But here's a definition from the EPA. Zero waste is a goal that is ethical, economical, efficient, and visionary to guide people in changing their lifestyle and practices to emulate sustainable natural cycles where all discarded materials are designed to become resources for others to use. Zero waste means designing and managing products and processes to systematically avoid and eliminate the volume and the toxicity of waste and materials, conserve and recover all resources, and not burn or bury them. Zero waste will eliminate discharges to land, water, or air that are a threat to planetary, human, animal, or plant health. So, what does this, the efforts toward zero waste mean to residents of Upper Darby? Just to be clear, nothing is happening to our trash and recycling system. We're going to have our trash and recycling picked up. But we are, at the EAC, going to just be taking a closer look at what we could be doing to be more sustainable, to save residents money, and to make an impact on having a cleaner, safer, and more sustainable environment for everybody. There are components of zero waste, and we're going to just go through them quickly. And we're going to ask some of the folks on the EAC to tell us what they've learned about these things. And I'm going to start with recycling as part of zero waste. And Lauren, could you give us a little update on that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Bonnie, I didn't have time to prepare this, as you know, so I'm kind of wing it a little bit. Well, the committee has actually spent a fair amount of time looking at recycling, and how it works and how it works more better, with not too many conclusions yet, other than, I'm going to start, if I can, with a little bit of a survey, because the question always comes out is how well we're doing, how much people get, how much stuff really gets recycled correctly. And we know from reports from Waste Management that they actually don't recycle a good deal, a good percentage of it. But let me just tell you quickly that Liz Ann Hamilton, who attends some of the meetings, and I live on Maple Avenue, and so for about 5 weeks this summer, on recycling day in our neighborhood, she and I went around and took a look at what was in the recycling barrels. We didn't dump them out, look everything and put it back in. We only looked at what was on the surface of the recycling barrels. And it took us a little while to get stuff together. So I was able to, we came up with an instrument, and I was able to collect some comparative data on 3 of those 5 excursions. And what we found that was on August 2nd, that 43% of the barrels looked like they did okay. We could not see anything which was unacceptable. On the 16th, 63% looked acceptable, and on the 30th, 31% looked acceptable. So I'm not sure whether that was our observation or, how well people did, because it's very small sample. But more interestingly are the things that made other barrels not acceptable. And we counted if there were plastic bags in the recycling. Again, on the second, there was 11% of the barrels had plastic bags visible. On the 16th, only 7%, and on the 30th, 16%. So it's not a huge amount, but that, and this township has actually done a fairly good job the last several months of not accepting barrels that had, where people put everything in a plastic bag, or where they're otherwise obvious. So that probably has cut down on that violation. So, second thing would be the recyclable items which would be dirty, that is not clean. And that's a very small percentage, 7%, 2%, 3% of what we saw was dirty and obviously wouldn't be accepted. Non-recyclable items, that's things that clearly don't meet the plastic, the things that, the dirty pizza boxes, those kinds of things. And that was probably, well, that was one of the bigger offenses. We found 25%, 16%, and 35% of what we saw was not recyclable material in the recycling bins. Then the final category we had to look at was whether or not there were caps left on particularly the water bottles, but soda bottles, plastic soda bottles and plastic water bottles. And that's probably the biggest offender. We had 29%, 34.9%, and 34%, another 29% of the barrels had plastic caps, non-recyclable. You didn't send this around to the committee, or did you?
Yeah.
Oh, the committee, all right, committee's done. I have, handwritten, if you guys want to take a look at it. I've got printed copies. But I think we can draw 2 conclusions from that. One is that Liz and I are not scientific survey takers, but it is possible to do it. We might want to replicate this Some have other people in other neighborhoods do this. The other is that some of the obvious kinds of things, like the plastic bag, like the things that are dirty, don't seem to be as much of an offense until you get to the, basically, again, the bottle caps and things which are non-recyclable, which suggests to me the thing that we have been talking about since we started with considering this is that education is really an important piece of this. Either that or to get the recycling industry to be able to accept more things. Which I think that the bottle caps is one that seems to be silly and how many people really think about that? Take the cap off.
Actually, when we had heard from our friend, when he came in, when we did the wall, he said the bottle caps are recyclable. He did clarify that for us. He said they,
Well,
he said bottle.
well, then there's some confusion about that because this had checked with the township and they said, no, they're not. And in fact, my reading suggests that some may be, that is, they may be made of plastic which is equivalent to what the bottles are, and others may not.
We can check with Charles on
Sure,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Kristen.
I mean, I thought originally that was so, and again, so Liz Ann did check with the township, whoever she talked to, I don't know who she talked to. She's not here now. Said, no, they're not accepted. And so, but that, and we need to educate ourselves, but either way, I think education is going to be key. Or getting the recycling industry, as I say, to be able to take in more material. So, anyway, that's, others are, you maybe want to add more about sort of recycling generally.
Anything to add?
Well, I do know, when Charles, Broadenbush, he had, come to one of our hikes, we just had an informal, conversation about what's recyclable, what's not. I was under the, impression that anything smaller than a business card was non-recyclable. He said that in fact wasn't the case. Bottle caps, things like that are recyclable. I think the main, emphasis for that conversation was talking about clean recyclables, things being as clean as possible. Obviously, the plastic bags were a big issue, but I know what you're saying, Norm. I've been seeing even in my own blog, it seemed like in the beginning when we were pushing clean recyclables and what to recycle and what not to recycle, things were going really well. And then I noticed over the summer, recycling guys throwing everything into the truck without scrutinizing anything. If there was a plastic bag in there, they just threw it in. If there was a pizza box, they threw it in. So I know it's kind of an uphill battle, and I guess it's just one of those things we're just going to have to keep, encouraging the township to keep encouraging, their waste management department to, really drive away. They were driving away if they saw something in there that was a violation. They were driving away, and that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. I assume that maybe some people had complained, and maybe the complaints were, more troublesome than, driving past the recyclables. That's the only thing I can assume, but.
No, but I think our job is to keep emphasizing the plastic bags and the trash,
Right.
and the recycling, and no pizza boxes in the recycling.
Right.
And don't put your recycling in plastic bags, and just put it in the can. And let's keep emphasizing those things and try to instill that in folks. So recycling is an important part of zero waste, to try to get down to as little waste as possible, because there is no way. And anything you throw away actually goes someplace. And that place is either a landfill, or if it's possible to be recycled, sometimes it gets recycled. If there's a market for that material, or if it's in an incinerator, which then puts pollutants into the air, which we want to try to avoid. So all of us, the stuff that Ron was talking about as far as things that shouldn't be recycled, I am an aspirational recycler sometimes as well. I wish that something I put in there could be recycled, although it really can't. And we have to, what's the saying, Kristen?
When in doubt, throw it out.
There you go. So we have to sort of follow that rule, because it's probably better that way. There are other parts of zero waste components, and those are refusing, reducing, and reusing. And I think that we're going to let Peggy sort of give us a little bit of information that she's gathered on those aspects, and then Kristen will add to that as well. Peggy? I think you're on mute.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Great. This list that I'm going to run through is something that as a committee we have talked about, and it is a first step in really for us to make sure that we're getting the right information out. Some of them are educational seminars that we've talked about. Some of these are just more education and for our community to know what is going on that we are doing for the recycling. As we all know that the mayor has instituted the Christmas trees pickup for even a longer time than in past years so that they're able to reach everyone. There's also a drop-off point that is usually provided so that if you don't want to wait, you can also drop it there. Also, as you know, we have the yard waste that goes on from April through November. That is during your recycling days, that is your yard waste. And again, ways to keep that out of the landfill and incinerators. We've also been working on the recycling piece. It is a cumbersome list, but we're trying to figure out ways to communicate exactly what things should be recycled and which things and how they should be recycled. We also have talked about reinstituting the glass domes that used to pick up the glass, but as you know, there were problems with it previously that people were using it to just dump items. So we're working at trying to reinstate that. We also have the shredding days. There's one coming up on October 6th where you can dispose of all of your personal items, and that way they can be disposed of properly. Currently, if you have a mattress that you need to dispose of, you can contact the township. There is a fee. I think it's, and again, we're just clarifying it. I don't want to give out a price right now. We're trying to work through all these details, but it is critical that mattresses, when they're placed on the corner, are in a plastic bag. We're also looking at ways that, such as a bulk trash days, or ways to work with those that repurpose the scrappers of the appliances so that they can be, again, recycled as opposed to going into a landfill. We've also talked about Facebook and the Delco for free. Many people use that if they have unwanted items so that they can then let others work out an arrangement so they can pick that out. So again, it doesn't go into a landfill. We've also talked about educational seminars dealing with composting, and we're looking at some other ways that we can institute composting. We've talked about really promoting people using their reusable bags as opposed to the plastic bags. We've also talked about, I even saw just recently a commercial with Dove that is promoting the deodorants where you can refill it. So those are ways that we can help reduce and recycle. There's also been talk in some of the townships that you can separate the cardboard. And again, it's one of those initiatives we are also looking at. We're also looking at the disposal of the electronics and the fluorescent and batteries, ways that they can be disposed of properly. As you also know, that there's also in our township, there's the rain barrel that is often, I think it's at least once or twice a year, seminars on how you can collect rainwater. There's also the rain garden that you can ask to have one put in that helps maintain the rainwater. And there's also the tree tenders. We also have talked about also finding ways to promote those businesses that recycle items such as places like Kid to Kid, places like Goodwill, the Restore, Habitat for Humanity, Purple Heart. There's also another one, Furniture. I think it's Furniture. I forget the name of it. That we can also, these are some of the ways that you can recycle your furniture, that we are trying to make sure that we can get good information so we can promote that. And I think that's mostly it. But one of our goals here, and then of course there is the littering piece. As you know, the township has had many cleanup days, and also, the promoting of people picking up the litter in their neighborhoods. So we're trying to get that information clarified so that we can then get out and educate people to help us reduce and recycle.
Okay, thanks, Peggy. Kristen, do you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
As I was looking into like the zero waste idea, I think it does encompass so many different things, but I really was interested specifically on the refuse part of it. And I think to encourage people, I think a lot of times, it's easy just to keep acquiring things, and I think the less you acquire, the less you have to throw out. I think Bonnie, you had said that earlier. And it's something that I've only just recently kind of started thinking about. I've read some articles about, just minimizing the amount of things in your home, going through and kind of cleaning house, looking for things that you can recycle or reuse or donate, and trying to make it a point not to be continuing to acquire things. Like if magazines come to your house, if you have magazine subscriptions, are these things really necessary? Can you still get all that information online? Things like that. I certainly don't want to discourage anybody from reading, but I think it's more of a shift in your mindset. I'm from the generation where it was all about acquisitions. You wanted to have all kinds of things. Tchotchkes and this and that and all that. And as I get older, I find myself wanting more to simplify my life and have less things that I can throw away. Personally, I'm back to composting as well, and I like the idea of it. It does take a bit of effort, Sometimes my son comments about how he doesn't like the stinky compost bucket that sits on the counter, but I tell him it only smells when you take the lid off, so deal with it. But not everybody has the opportunity to be able to do that. School's just getting started now, as you all know, I teach over at Garriford. So I've been very discouraged over there. We're back in full sessions with a full group of kids, 600 kids in my building. And every single day they get a lunch and everything is packaged. There's a piece of pizza in a box. There's a milk container. There's celery and carrots in a plastic bag. And then all of that is in another plastic bag. And so you have 600 kids every single day with only about 8 to 10% of them packing their own lunches. And you would not believe the volume of trash that goes out on a daily basis. And I'm certain that this is going on in every one of the Upper Darby schools. And unfortunately, because of COVID, I think it's created even more of an environmental impact. They say that there's masks now floating in the world's oceans, and we see masks all over the street and plastic gloves and things like that. And it breaks my heart because I feel like maybe any progress that might have been made prior to COVID, I feel like now there's almost like a slight bit of a backslide. I've gotten to the point where I can't even be in the cafeteria during lunch. And I don't know what the solution is. I wish that they could just go back to putting a piece of pizza on a plate, even if they could just eliminate the big triangle box. The piece of pizza is about the size of your palm, but the box that they put it in is almost 3 times the size of the piece of pizza.
Well, I'm sure that when things get safer and they feel that, they don't need to package everything individually, and that people will go back to thinking more about sustainability. And
I hope so, but we've been told that this is going to be the status quo for the remainder of the year. So they've already made the contract with RMark and food, has been set and the
Yeah, I'm sure.
everything's been paid for. But I think it's a matter of changing the mindset. I would like to think about as the school year progresses, maybe even doing a presentation at the schools. We had talked before about maybe the middle schools and the high schools having, some recycling advocates or something. I don't even know how much schools even recycle. We do have recycling bins, but a lot of the kids just throw regular trash inside of them.
So we're possibly discussing at our subcommittee meetings about
So-
doing that.
So, I think it's just about changing the mindset. I think zero waste is kind of, has many different facets to it. And I think it's, just to stay encouraged and to think about the things that you're doing in your home, how you're contributing and maybe what kind of examples you're setting for the people around you, I think is important to be aware of. So,
Okay, thank you, Kristen. I just want to pick up very quickly on a couple things. So I think the new name of the Thread Day in Upper Darby is Identity Theft Protection Event. Because they do the electronics, if you bring your electronics there, they'll destroy if they're, ones that you're getting rid of so that nobody can steal your identity from old electronics. So they'll do that in addition to collecting the papers, the personal papers that need to be shredded. So I just want to clarify that. And the other thing that Kristen brought up was the composting. So we're taking a look at composting, and we're going to study that, and we'll come back to that at some point in time and talk a little bit more about composting, because that heavy garbage is one of the things that really makes the trash really heavy and adds to the cost of trash pickup. So we're thinking about that as well. So those are all parts of zero waste. And we had Lauren?
I just wanted to add a couple things. When Peggy was talking about refusing, reusing and recycling, I think in terms of the refusing part of that, there is something that the township can at least make an effort in, actually two things. And I think it ought to be on our agenda. One is to have the township probably doesn't have the authority to require a deposit on plastic drink containers, soda bottles and water bottles and whatnot. But the state could do that. And there's frequently legislation introduced on that. I think the township at a minimum could recommend to area legislators that they all support that. It's called the bottle bill. Those states that have done it have found a significant reduction in the trash pickup, in the litter, and in the cost of their recycling. So that's number one. The other is similar, and that is to ban the plastic bags, single-use bags. I know that Philadelphia has done that. I'm not quite sure that I understood first that there was a state mandate disallowing municipalities from doing that, but somehow that's either, I'm not sure, I think that's the last. And so Philadelphia is in some stage of implementing that. Yeah, I'm not sure why we couldn't do that here in Upper Darby. Again, not only is it a recycling problem, but it's a litter problem without question. And it's enormous, and the plastic which is ending up in all stages of the environment, including, of course, the oceans, that would go a significant way because plastic bags are a big part of it.
Well, thank you, Norm. And when we get to the end of the meeting here, we're going to talk about the fact that we're in the beginning stages of thinking about all this, and at some point in time, we're hopefully going to make some formal recommendations to the township around zero waste. So as we've been studying this, we actually had a meeting with the Upper Darby Council Committee on Health and Public Safety to talk about zero waste practices together. And Amanda will talk a little bit about what we did at that meeting.
So we met in early September to talk to those committee members about how the DAC can partner to sort of further the zero waste efforts in the township. And really at the root of it all, as we've said before, was education. So there's a few ways that we're looking into and proposing to move forward to educate the community about zero waste. One is a flyer sort of explaining zero waste and providing some zero waste resources that can be made available at community events, as well as to realtors to provide to new residents to the township. And then really looking at too, if that is a paper flyer that is available, and as well as looking at other formats that flyer can take so that it could be something that's useful and is maybe beyond just a sheet of paper that will get hopefully recycled and not thrown out, but would be something that folks could make use at and refer to, make use of and refer to. We also discussed the possibility of a series of public forums, education forums, that is both in person and online, to educate the community on zero waste and different aspects of it, and how we can move Upper Darby further along in the zero waste efforts. Another sort of thing to come from that meeting was really the idea that we don't really need to reinvent the wheel. There are a number of townships and communities that are already much further along in their zero waste efforts. And so we can look to those communities for what has worked, what hasn't, and use that as an inspiration for how we want to move forward with zero waste efforts in Upper Darby Township. And then really look for what our future recommendations for a plan for zero waste and strategies for the township. What do we really, where we want to start with that, and what would we want our end goal and our end results to be, and the steps that it will take to get from beginning to the end, and how to move forward as a community.
Thanks, Amanda. One of the things that is going to be a follow-up to this is talking with one of the businesses in Upper Darby, Kitchen Harvest, which is a composting company, talking about the pilot project that they did in media. So we're learning from some other places about how they implemented their composting project, and talking with the owner of the Kitchen Harvest, who is right here in Upper Darby. So both the council committee and the EAC committee members are going to be following up on that. And in our subgroup committee, we're going to begin to design a flyer and also think about those educational forums. So we're hoping that we'll have a flyer by the International Festival Day, which is the second. Look for the EAC table at the festival, and we'll have a flyer or a bookmark or something that we feel is appropriate that people will actually be able to use and not just throw away or recycle. So thanks, Amanda, for that. Thanks all members of the EAC for putting us up to speed on that. One of the things that we might not think of as part of the zero waste is dog waste. And dog waste is a big problem in a lot of places, and people not picking it up. There should be some understanding that when that is left on the ground, the bacteria that's in dog waste actually seeps into the water system, because when it rains, it pushes that down into the water table, and that goes into our water supply, which we don't want to happen. Kristen, you want to tell us a little bit about the dog waste stations that you've been researching?
Yeah, I spoke to Barbara Ann when we had done our birthday walks, and I explained to her I live real close to Gillespie Field, and I said it's becoming a really major problem with the amount of dog waste there. So I actually took it upon myself. I had bought some signs, put them up around the fences, and I actually made my own cleanup stations. Like I hung some bags, and then I used the little bags that we had gotten as giveaways and put them like all around the field. And unfortunately, the kids saw that as an opportunity to pull all the bags out and treat them like streamers. And so I was very discouraged. But I did approach Barbara Ann about getting some Doggy cleanup station. I know you can't see it really well, but I did provide a link in the next email to Bonnie. So they range in price from about $175 a piece. They come with the can, there's a sign, and then there's a little dispenser for bags. And the mayor seemed pretty interested in the idea. I think what she wanted to do is maybe possibly try a pilot program where we did them at a couple of the high usage fields, maybe 2 or 3 of the fields, and see if they got any use. So what I would like to do is to propose that we, send her some of the information on the pricing and just continue to, maybe encourage her to maybe purchase a few of them and see if the residents are receptive to it. I know that down in Gillespie, unfortunately, what was happening was they were using the bags to clean up the dog poop, but then when they were taking the dog poop and putting it into the bag where the clean bags are, and I couldn't quite understand that because there was a trash can right there. I don't know if somebody was just trying to, show their displeasure or what. But again, it's just another one of those things that I think if there's an adequate station and a supply of bags, I think people would use them. And I just
And maybe some information why it's important.
yeah, some information about why it's important. Not only, for the rivers and streams, but a lot of these fields have multiple usage. I know that not only does Clifton use our field, but Holy Cross plays football games there. So there's a lot of activity on these fields, and they're meant as nice areas that people can enjoy for recreational purposes. And it is very discouraging when you go down there and it's loaded with dog feces. So I do believe that there were some nice stations put around and they were maintained. I think it might help to reduce some of that waste. So she did seem receptive to it. Now that I have the information and I've identified a couple sites, they have free shipping. Most of them come with 400 bags and 25 liners to get you started. So it's more than enough to see if it could work. And I think for $175 a piece, I don't think it's a huge investment as well. So
Okay. Thank you. Thanks so much. We'll follow up on that. And
Right.
see.
May I make a suggestion?
sure.
Go ahead, Steve.
The dog park in Kent Park in Drexel Hill is run by the county, and the county has established waste stations there. I think contacting county parks might be a good idea. See what kind of troubleshooting they could help with us beforehand, before we get ourselves into something we're not completely sure about.
Thank you. We can check into that and see how they found that it works there in Kent Park. Lessons learned are always important. Thank you. So you bring up the Gillespie Park, and so I want to let people know that actually there's a lot of stuff going on at Gillespie, and people can be part of it. And we're really excited about what's happening there. If you haven't visited Gillespie, you should take a trip to it. It's right off of Sycamore Avenue, off of Garrett Road. And when you drive into that park, you feel like you're driving out of any place into the country. And it's really beautiful. And the township has made a lot of improvements there, cleaned it up. And we're working with the tree tenders and with the Shade Tree Commission and the Eastern Delaware County Stormwater Collaborative to actually restore the buffer along the creek there. And if I'm familiar with the buffer is the area that is above the creek line, and usually they're about 50 feet, but a lot of the buffers along our creeks have been eroded. And now there's not a way to keep things from washing into the water, which pollutes our water supply. So even dirt coming into the water off of the ground is a pollutant. And then everything else washes in, including that dog waste and everything else in the rain washes right into the creek. So trying to restore the buffer, we're going to be planting about 300 trees along the Gillespie, the creek there. And it's going to be really beautiful, about 100 shrubs, flowering shrubs, and all native plants. So it's really exciting. We're looking for volunteers. We're going to have a planting day on October 16th. And look on the EAC and the Tree Tenders Facebook pages And you can get a link to sign up on Sign Up Genius to be part of that effort. And we hope that a lot of people in the township will come out and help plant those trees. So it'll just be very beautiful. And it's
I did have on both sites, I didn't see a link.
not yet.
Okay.
It'll be up there soon.
All right.
And the other, the Drexel Gardens Park, there's also been some restoration work being done there. And if you haven't been there, it's really beautiful. A lot of trees have been planted along the side, and there was some damage during the storm. And tree tenders and rain garden folks went out there and fixed up the trees that had been blown over. And so, but it's really beautiful. Our parks here in Upper Darby are really special, and I encourage people to go and visit them because they're really beautiful. You see wildlife there, ducks and foxes and deer, all kinds of great things. So we encourage you to go out and visit the parks. Also coming up on actually this Saturday is a pop-up skateboard at Observatory Park. So there's this new thing with the skateboard park that comes around and something new for Upper Darby. And it's exciting to get people outside and enjoying the outside in a variety of ways. So that's this coming Saturday. Are there other events that people know about that we want to?
Where was you said it was International Day, when, on the second, is that
October
October?
2nd, International Day, yeah. It's going to be exciting and fun, and it'll be at 69th Street, and then there'll be lots of different kinds of events going on that day. And people will come out and enjoy that.
Do we, Bonnie, do we need volunteers to be at the table, to hand out, whatever we want to hand out?
Well, I will, we're sharing the table with the tree tenders, so anybody will be there, but, anybody who wants to come out and be out there for a little while, talking to people about their waste is coming. Is there anything else that anybody would like to discuss before we adjourn our meeting?
And let me just, since we have a couple minutes, one of the things that I've been doing on a regular basis since the spring, early spring, is going around trying to pick up litter. It's, for a long time, I've been taking a long walk in the morning. And I decided, since I always saw litter, and I said to myself, somebody will pick that up. And I decided that I would be somebody. I don't do this every day, a couple days a week at most. I have a 5-gallon bucket and what I call a grabber. And it's really amazing how much stuff I pick up. But it's also amazing that some streets remain relatively clean. Once I picked up sort of the lingering stuff. And then when I always go up and down Maple Avenue, but less and less is when I find anything on Maple, unless it's been a windy day on trash day or recycling day, in which case, it does, and other stuff. But I think it's making a difference, and I tend to go more or less in the same streets, although I have some pretty random places I go. And there are a few places that always seem to have trash on the major roadways, for instance. But anyway, I would just encourage people to think about that. If you're going for a walk, you don't have to get a grabber if you're younger than I am, to bend over, pick things up, that's fine. Wear a pair of gloves, but at my age, a grabber is a really great thing. And you can take an excess plastic bag and just fill that up. And it really, I think it does make a difference picking that stuff up. So we may want to somehow think about encouraging people to, and I know Amanda's done it. So Amanda came out and said, well, this is a trashy place. And
You just have a quiet street.
right.
I agree, Norm. I've done the same thing. I was so encouraged because Scullion Field, they had Boy Scout troop, they came in and they repainted all the equipment and they cleaned up and they relined the basketball court and it really looked amazing. And I took a bunch of pictures and posted on Facebook and got some really great encouraging responses. And 2 months later now, there's a trash can right where the basketball court is. And today I probably picked up 100 water bottles. And literally the trash can is right there. And I've even gone out and bought signs that look very, townshipy, and I put them up, this is a nice park, please, please put your litter in the trash and please help keep our parks clean. And I am very discouraged, and I don't quite understand the mentality of the littering, but I think Amanda addressed it, litter just draws more litter. I think people see it sitting around and they think, well, what's the point? What's more litter? But even my dog knows how to pick up water bottles down. She goes around and, go get the water bottle, and she'll go and pick it up and bring it over to me, and we throw it in the trash. And
Oh, I will give another example of why I think it makes a difference to actually do it. When I first moved here, I've been here not quite 6 years, and my dog was alive and much more energetic in those days. So we used to get out of the Doggy Creek almost every morning and walk along there. And when I first started walking there, I was really dismayed at how much junk there was in trash. It really looked awful. But in recent years, as you know, the Doggy Creek Valley Association has an annual cleanup. But there's been several other cleanups, some of them organized by politicians and others. And I think today, now there still is there, but I think the walk along from Kent Dog Park to the Swedish Cabin and beyond, if you stay on the trail there, which is unmaintained, there was a lot less trash on a regular basis because people made the effort to clean it up. And when people saw that there was no trash there, they're less inclined to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's be hopeful and just continue to encourage people to put their trash in the trash can and to be good stewards of the land and, maybe buy their elderly grandparents or parents a grabber for Christmas.
There you go.
So before we go, is there anybody else? It looks like Stephen's gone. And he usually talks about rain gardens, and we do have an active rain garden group in the township. And if you're interested in getting a rain garden, there's Stephen's come back. Stephen, you want to make a pitch for rain gardens?
I have made a pitch before, and we've been out to a couple homes already, as Norman James knows. We have 4 rain gardens going in this fall. But a private landscaper do all of the heavy work. That's another reason why. But this fall and winter, we will then begin doing additional assessments for rain garden installations in the spring. But I'll give you more information about that maybe in October.
Great. Thank you so much for the efforts to do more rain gardens here in Upper Darby. And it does really make a difference for stormwater management, and we encourage people to think about that. And even if they're putting their own in small, again, research this and putting small rain gardens around if you find out how to do it. Anything else before we say goodnight? Okay, our next meeting is in November. We have every other month, so October we'll have a committee meeting that is just our subgroups, and we'll talk some more about for tonight. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
A motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Amanda. A second to adjourn the meeting.
motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Kristen. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Bye.
All opposed? All right, thank you very much. Thank